Hey everybody, welcome. So in this video, I want to show you how you can download NFT data from OpenSea, and I'm going to be using an open source library that I created to make it easier to download NFT data, including assets, bundles, collections, and events. So I'm going to assume that you already know about NFTs, at least on a high level. I'm going to assume as well that you know about OpenSea as a platform, and yeah. So let's try to download some NFTs. So first of all, I will show you how you can get an API key, so you can actually get access to OpenSea, the OpenSea API. Then I will show you how you can install the package that I created called OpenSea API. And then I will show you the usage of the API with some examples. First, what are the basic requests that you can make using the library, and then finally how you can download transactions using the library. So that's what we are going to explore today. Let me first talk about the API key. So actually, when I first started to use the OpenSea API, they didn't require an API key, but this changed I think on the 18th of November. So you actually need an API key. There has been a tweet that basically told everyone that, hey, from now on, everybody will need to use an API key. And you need to request one. And I have a link here. I also have a link in the description where you can request an API key. This is basically just a Google form. You need to fill it out and wait for OpenSea to respond. All right. So with that said, as I said, the package we will use is called OpenSea API. I recently created this package a couple of weeks ago because I didn't find anything like this in Python. And so basically, you need to, if you want to use it, you need to pip install it, OpenSea-API, and then here's some basic code example how you can get started. So in this code example, we are obviously first importing the package. We are creating an OpenSea API object using your API key, and then with this API object, you can make all kinds of requests to the OpenSea API. So here in this first example, we are downloading an asset using the contract address and the token ID. Both are mandatory arguments. And then in the last line, we are downloading multiple assets and we are specifying the owner as an argument. So basically, this line will download multiple assets that are owned by the account that we specify as a parameter. And well, not all of the assets will be downloaded, only 3 of them, because we also specified a limit argument. All right, so this is how it will work for all the requests that you make. Let me actually show you more examples. So I switched to VS Code. So again, we are going to do the same thing. We are importing the package. Here I also have a configuration file, a config Python file, which has the OpenSea API key information. And we are creating the object. And as you saw previously, let's run this script or this snippet so you can actually see what this returns. So if I run this, there is actually an error, which is unfortunate. Yes, because we didn't run the first snippet. So first, let's create the object. So if I run this 3 lines of code. We created the API object. Now I can actually run this part of the notebook, and this is what gets returned. As you can see, a dictionary. So what the API returns is a dictionary. In reality, it returns a JSON, but the wrapper library that I created returns a dictionary based on the JSON. So this is what we see. Obviously, the different data fields that the JSON has. And if you want to see what arguments you can pass to the asset function or to the other functions, you can, if you have an editor like VS Code, it will show you. But I think PyCharm and maybe other editors can do this as well. But basically, you can, for example, the asset function takes asset contract address and token ID as mandatory arguments, but you can also pass the account address parameter if you want to, and we will talk about the export file name parameter in a few seconds as well. All right, so moving on, as I said, the returned object is actually a dictionary, and so you can get the data from the dictionary as usual. And so let's run the same kind of API request. We expect an asset object, but right now we are only going to get the name and the image URL of the asset. So if I run this part, what we get back is the name of the NFT and the image URL from the dictionary. And so, for example, this could be used if you want to download the image URL for some reason. Moving on, let's see how you can export the actual JSON response file, maybe because you want to store the data, the raw JSON data on your computer for some reason, or maybe you want to get the JSON to further process the data, or for other reasons. But it's very simple. You just need to specify the argument called export file name. This argument is available for all the API functions, so you can always use this no matter if you're requesting assets or collections or events or other things. And you need to specify the name of the file that you want to be created. In this example, it's going to be called asset.json. So if I run this part, again, we get the dictionary back, but we also have a new JSON file created. It's unformatted, so it's just in one line. But if I format the document, we actually see that it contains the asset data. We have background color, image URL, and other asset-related data fields. All right, so you can export JSON files for everything, for all the assets and collections and whatever you are downloading. Moving on, let's see an example with a collection. So again, we can the Python functions are the same as as they are mentioned in the OpenSea API documentation. There is actually a link here. If you look up the documentation of the function, there's a link to the correct endpoint. So if you want to know more about what you will get, what this function will return, you can just click this link, and this will lead you to the OpenSea API documentation, and you will see what you can expect in the JSON file, for example. So here we are going to download data about the CryptoPunks collections, because that's what we defined as the collection slug. And we'll also, as previously, create a JSON file called CryptoPunks.json. So if I run this line of code, again, we see the part of the JSON here, but this is the full JSON. if I format the document again. So this is the full JSON that we just downloaded. We have a collection item here. We have a list of editors. We have payment tokens, asset contracts. So we have all kinds of data fields here for the collection. And here you only have collection slug as a parameter that you must provide. All right, so one other thing I wanted to show you is that, as I mentioned, the API returns a dictionary, but sometimes you get the values on the first level, so to speak, in the dictionary. But in other times, for example, in the case of a collection, you need to go deeper. So if, for example, if I run the same kind of collection query and I want to see the keys in the collection, what you will see is that there is actually only one key collection. And so if you actually want to get the data fields or the values in the dictionary, you need to go one level deeper. For example, as you can see here, I'm creating a variable to store the actual dictionary with the values. And then from the dictionary, I can get the name of the collection, the Discord URL, Twitter username, and everything else that is available. So if I run this, this will not return everything from the dictionary, only those three values. Name of the collection is CryptoPunks, obviously, because that's what we have as the parameter. We have the Discord link and Twitter. Now, obviously, I could use other collections here. So let's maybe try another example with Cryptokitties. And if I run this, this will create a JSON file with the Cryptokitties collections data. This is the JSON file. And we have, again, all kinds of data here. Traits, for example, a lot of them. All right, so this is the basic usage. You can this way you can get data about one collection, about one asset. But if I go to the GitHub page of this library, link in the description, you can also see here that similarly you can get data about multiple assets. So not just one, but multiple assets. You can get data about a specific contract. You can get data about multiple collections. You can get collection stats and the bundles as well. Now, the final thing I wanted to show, because that might be a little bit more complicated, or at least you can, like there are multiple ways to do this, which is the events. So how you can download events or transactions from the OpenSea marketplace. So we are going to try that now. You could come up with a different way. This is what I found that that it works well, at least for me and my use cases. So basically, if you use this wrapper library, you can use, as usual, the event function, which will make a request to the events endpoint. And what I like to do is create two datetime objects, and these two datetime objects will basically define a time period. So in this example, the first datetime object will be 6th of November, 2:25 in the afternoon, and the second datetime object will be 5 minutes later. And so this is a 5-minute time window, and I'm going to download transactions from that 5-minute time window using the occurred after, which is the start time of the period, and the occurred before, which is the end time of the period. And then I also have limit to specify how many items I want in a JSON, and the name of the exported JSON file. So if I run this, let's maybe first try with a lower limit, maybe just 5. So I will see 5 events in the JSON file. So if I run this, we see there is a new JSON file created called events.json. I format the document. This is what it contains. 5 events in one single JSON file. As you can see, we have an asset events item which contains all the events, and basically this is how you can download transactions. Now, if you want to, obviously there were more than 5 events that happened in this 5-minute time window that we specified here. If you want to get all of them, that's a little tricky because you need to iterate over. You need to make basically multiple requests to the API, and there are multiple ways you can go about that. I might create a video about that in the future. But what I wanted to say here in this video is that the maximum amount of items that the JSON can have is 300. So the maximum value here for the limit can only be 300. If you specify something more, let's say 500, and you run the script, you will get an error message that says the value needs to be less than or equal to 300. But if you use 300 as the value and you run the script, it will take a couple of seconds, and then you have a JSON file, a very long JSON file with a lot of 300 transactions. So basically that is how you download multiple transactions, and as always with the as I said, it's true for all the functions, that you basically, the parameters that you can define here are equivalent to what is described in the OpenSea API documentation. So if we go back to, for example, here, this is the, I don't know why it's so squeezed in the middle. I don't know what's happening with the layout here, but the main thing I wanted to mention is that, as you can see, we have owner as a parameter, we have token IDs and other parameters here. So you can use all these parameters in the, or at least you should be able to use all these parameters when you make a request using Python. So here, for example, for the collection, we have a, you can't see this, but this is collection slug. And that's the same parameter as this one. And so the function parameters and the parameters defined here in the documentation should be the same. Obviously, if OpenSea API changes something about their API, this library will need to be updated as well. But regarding transactions, one important parameter that, well, at least I found it important in my work, is the event type parameter. So if I want to define one more parameter here, let's actually go to the transaction, the events documentation, which we can go from here. So if you go to the OpenSea API events documentation, you might not be able to see it because everything is squeezed, but this is the event type parameter, and this can be successful. Maybe I try to, so this can be successful, cancelled, bid entered, etc. Basically, if you want to get sale transaction, so when someone actually bought an NFT from someone else, you need the successful event type. And basically, you can just go here and for the events function, pass a parameter called event type. And this is the same as defined in the documentation of the API. So event type equals successful. I think that's how you spell that. Yes. So we define that as an event type. So what this will do is it basically makes sure that only successful transactions will get downloaded. So if we run this script again, maybe we call this not events, but sales. So if we run this, it takes a couple of seconds and we have a sales JSON file. Let's format the document. And all the transactions here are sale transactions. How can you know that? Well, you can search for the word event type. I think that's what it's called in the JSON as well. Yes, so as you can see, event type successful. And if we maybe search for other items, successful, event type successful. So these are all sale transactions. But if we go back to the previous JSON, which is events.json file, here we didn't use this event type parameter. So if we search for the event type, what we see here is not successful, but offer entered. Actually, what I found is that most of the events are offer events, so not sale transactions. All right, so that's basically all I wanted to show. I hope it was useful. And if you want to learn more, I will put links in the description to this GitHub repository to see some examples. There's also a documentation which has slightly more information. I plan to add more examples here. Yeah, you can also check out the OpenSea API documentation, which should be a starting point, in my opinion, if you try to get data from OpenSea, even if you are using the wrapper library I just showed you. Yeah, those are the links. If you have questions, leave them in the comment section. But you can also find me on Twitter with the Otilotto dev handle, and you can also email me if you want to, if you have questions or suggestions or anything like that. And so that's all I planned for today. And see you later. Bye.